spoiler alert, it is a myth. I mean, according to the research and the data, multitasking reduces productivity by up to 40%. Only about 2.5% of people in the world can effectively multitask. And it shows it in the brain, like when you're constantly going from one thing to another, in aggregate, you said it can leave you drained or even disoriented. And that's what the research shows at the neurological level.
Welcome to Limitless Minds, the podcast where curiosity meets greatness. Each week, co-host DJ Eitzen and Harry Wilson sit down with some of the most exceptional individuals across sports, business, and beyond. From world-class athletes and peak performance coaches to visionary CEOs, entrepreneurs, and influential authors, they dive deep into the stories and strategies that drive extraordinary success. If you're ready to discover what it takes to be truly limitless and push beyond your own limits, you're in the right place.
All right, welcome to the Limitless Minds podcast. On this episode, it's just DJ and I today, man. We're going to rap about a few things. And you know, the one thing I was worried about came true to our listeners. You know, DJ didn't eat before this podcast, before this episode, and so he can get a little like a little short, a little salty. So if you guys are feeling that, like, just know that it's not his. I mean, well, it is his fault because he didn't eat, but it's just,
I gotta eat, man.
It's not personal, right?
It's not.
So
it's not. You did. Hey, listen, you warned me, Harry. I mean, we saw the time that we had two choices of when we could do this, and I chose to do it during the lunchtime. Had a lunch packed, was ready to go, completely left it on the table at home. But listen, we can get through adversity, man. That's what we do at Limitless Minds. That's what we've been doing here now with our friendship for over, I don't know, what have we been friends for, 12 years now? I think 2000
seems like an eternity, bro.
13?
Seems like an eternity. Seems like, you know what I mean?
Dog years. That's right. If anybody knows how I act without food, it's Harry. So I appreciate the disclaimer ahead of this.
Yeah.
But
I know you take a lot of pride in going to the doctor and like getting your cholesterol checked, your LDL, all these different things, great. And it's looking great. Good. But like I was gonna ask you the other day, like, hey, because I know we both have some diabetes in our family. Like, check on that. Your blood sugar. When your blood sugar's acting funny, you know what I mean?
You might be right. You might be right. Yeah, because it's right. I mean, it's true. It's almost like instantaneous too. As soon as the food hits, man, it's like my attitude and everything changes. So yeah, I might have to get that checked out. Shout out to Dr. Galvin, who's been keeping me in great health now for over a decade. That's my guy, man. Dr. Galvin is a beast. So
well, listen, speaking of your shortcomings, no, I'm just kidding. No, you and I were having a friendly conversation, debate, you know.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting is I don't think either one of us had a strong stance on this, but I thought this would be fun. This would be interesting to talk about, because I know one thing we want to talk about today is just multitasking and this kind of this myth. Potentially, I guess we'll discuss it. You know, multitasking, is this important? Is it optimal? Is it a myth that multitasking is a good thing? But you know, on that topic, we were talking about this morning, audiobooks, listening to books. I know that this is a part of your daily habit, part of your regular thing is, you know, and certainly you'll read books, but oftentimes, you know, you'll tell me about a book you read that you listened to either fully or on Blinkist. Shout out to Blinkist. And I asked you, I was like, hey, quick, you know, is listening to a book, is that considered reading? You know, now obviously the whole point of getting the knowledge and then being able to use it is real either way, but that's what I want to open up. Yeah, I want to open up that. Like, is listening to an audiobook considered reading? What's your take?
It's a great question. I would say, you know, my short answer would be yes. I think that listening to an audiobook is reading. I also think reading is reading, right? If I had to pick the two, if I had to pick one out of the, you know, one from the other, I would say that I probably would retain more by actually reading a book physically.
Why do you think that?
I think that because it's just, you know, the actual seeing the words, and then also, you know, just seeing the words and then being able to like visualize exactly how to apply those things. I think I think it's a little bit more concrete for me when I'm actually reading. I think there are times where my mind will wander when I'm reading, and I think that's why I kind of prefer audiobook in terms of I'm able to my mind wanders actually less because I'll find something where I'm doing that's like walking, where I don't have to think about walking. So I'll just walk and I can just then consume the book and listen to it while I'm walking. And so that for me works better. Also, I back in the day, I started so many books and never finished them. And so just the sheer fact that I finish books now with audiobooks, it allows me to be able to activate some of the concepts that I read or retain the information. And so for me, reading an audiobook has been more effective. But yeah, I mean, I think physically flipping through pages, and then also like I write a lot of notes, even in my Bible, there's constant underline and then notes that are written. That process helps me retain things a little bit more clear. It's just I have not been able to apply the physical reading of a book as much as the audiobook ever since audiobooks were introduced, some time ago. So that's my short take on it. What about you?
I mean, like, I listen, is it reading? I think it is, right? I think it's, but I do think that, obviously there are different modalities and different ways of retaining information. I think that, for those that not everybody loves to read, whether it be childhood stuff or how they developed as readers or the time and, the quiet, because I think one thing that's beautiful about reading, when you typically do it, right? You're on the beach, right? Maybe on an airplane, maybe on an airplane, in a comfy, cozy chair at your house, like in the sunroom, whatever, right? So you're usually doing
that's where you fall asleep. That's where you fall asleep. Right?
Yeah. But you're usually doing it as an appendage to like solitude and like quiet and taking time for yourself. So I think that the typical environment of physically reading pages left to right, turning the page, feeling it in your hand is something that I think many readers enjoy, right?
Yeah.
It's almost a part of a sacred, like, process that they have. I think that audio allows those that aren't like avid, love to sit and read, it gives that solution for them that they're going to get some content, get some information that they otherwise would probably opt out of. So I think there's benefits to it. I think that what's interesting, you mentioned, getting distracted when you're physically reading. I find myself oftentimes getting physically distracted when I listen to an audiobook, because usually I'm doing that as an opposition to the scenario I just kind of built, like while I'm doing other things, right? So while I'm on a run, while I'm working out in some sort on a drive, so that way I can kind of listen and kind of like get this information, but also I can do some other stuff. I know my wife Courtney, she'll listen to an audiobook, while we're doing something with the kids or like cleaning the garage or doing the dishes, right? So I have it on, and so she's able to kind of do multiple things, and so it just got me. I was just thinking about that this morning because I know that we wanted to talk about multitasking, right?
Yep.
And I think in the environments that we're in, we have whether it be like elite corporate athletes, executives, sales teams, or even in sports, the energy around multitasking is kind of a badge of honor for people. Their ability to multitask.
Yeah.
I don't know about Jess, your wife, but Courtney, like I think she wears a badge of honor that she can like juggle all a lot of balls, like do it all, right? Yeah. And she does a great job. But I challenge her on it a lot because I think that she keeps taking on new stuff, volunteering for this, getting involved in PTA. She's an attorney, right? She's a general counsel at a law firm. So she's working. I mean, she's got a real like important, heavy job and burden that she carries from a work perspective. And then she comes home. She wants to coach, several she wants to coach several field hockey teams. She wants to run the auction at the school. Several. There's 3 or 4 teams that she coaches at the same time. It's insane. But then she wonders why she's drained, or wonders why one of those 8, 9, 10 different things didn't kind of work out the way she wanted it to, right? And so, I know that you and I have kind of gotten a peek behind the curtain on some of the best performers in the world. And, I just wanted to kind of present the idea that maybe multitasking is a myth, right? And maybe that it doesn't work for you. Like, what's your take on that? And you might have some data around this. I don't know, but
Yeah. There's actually there's a lot of data around it, and spoiler alert, it is a myth. I mean, according
Mhm,
to the research and the data,
mhm, mhm,
multitasking reduces productivity by up to 40%. Only about 2.5% of people in the world can effectively multitask, and so it's and it shows it in the brain, like when you're constantly going from one thing to another in aggregate. And you brought up a word, and I'm going to make sure that you said it can leave you drained, or
mhm.
even disoriented, and that's what the research shows at the neurological level. And so it is a myth, but I think it's almost in another phrase that you use, a badge of honor. I mean, in our society, it is somewhat of a badge of honor that you can do all these things, and some almost like superhuman. And so I think going to the data and showing that, hey, this the data points that this is actually not true, that maybe it takes off some of the pressure for people to have to think they can do everything. And I don't think that, Harry, it's going to get any easier. I mean, it's like you constantly see, there's examples of people, online in your feed that are doing everything and they're amazing at everything. But in reality, it's just not the case. And so
Yeah.
maybe the 2.5% of people, right? If you're part of that elite group and that can do that, but for the 98% of folks, it's just not nice.
Yeah. I think that, like, I remember one thing that Trevor Moawad, and for those that don't know Trev, he was our late co-founder and one of the world's kind of modern day godfathers of the mental fitness and peak performance space. What he would
Mm-hmm.
always talk to us about is the law of substitution, right?
Yep.
That the human brain isn't actually capable of thinking about more than one thing at a time, and more importantly, executing optimally, at least,
Yeah.
more than
Yep.
one thing at a time. And so, as soon as those, even if it comes from a thought perspective, like, you're trying to do a task, as soon as those negative thoughts enter, right, they
Yep.
begin to infiltrate the productive energy that you need to, like, accomplish something, or to get something done, or to take the next step, right, whatever it might be. And so I just think that, the idea of from a task perspective, the idea of switching tasks does increase errors and lowers quality of work. So if, let's just say, you're a great painter, right? And you're known for painting these really big canvases, let's just say it's a landscape specifically. And I said, okay, you know, I want you to go ahead and I need you to paint both of the, I want you to paint this landscape, right? It's or a seascape, it's the lake, it's Lake Erie, right? Up
Yeah. Lake
not
Erie.
too far from you, right? And
That's
then
right.
I also want you to paint, this image of this forest, but I want you to do it at the same time, right? And
Mm.
you have the same amount of time. You have two, what would normally take you 2 days to maybe paint, or 2 weeks, or whatever it is. I want you to paint that, and I want you to paint this same period of time. You don't get any extra
Yep.
time. You're going to be able to paint it because you're a good painter, right? But what's going to end up happening is, both of those jobs are going to be, deficient in, like, what the quality of work is, because
Yeah.
you're not able to truly focus on that one project, right? And
That's
so,
right.
and
That's right.
whatever that means in anyone's kind of daily life, like, multitasking is something that I really want people to think differently about, you know,
Yep.
um,
Yep.
because
That's
if it
right.
reduces productivity 40%, you said,
That's right.
is it worth that, right? Is that
Mhm.
worth that 40% reduction in productivity? We have to think about that as founders of a business, right? I mean, we're constantly fighting off, like, new ideas, new opportunities, and I know, at least for, in my daily work, part of my job is to kind of identify that, is this would be opportunity, is it truly an opportunity for growth, or to move us along, or is it actually disguised as a distraction?
Distraction. Yeah, for
And I would say
sure.
that 95% of the time, it's a significant majority of the time, it's
Yeah.
actually a distraction. But it's
That's
like
right.
trying to figure out how to work through that to make sure you're not missing an opportunity. And I think that's what many of us kind of worry about, is like, well, if I don't do, the second, third, and fourth thing now with this other priority, then, maybe I miss out, or maybe I just don't, I can't move along as fast. And so, but I just think that you have to kind of begin to kind of develop some skills to understand, um, how to really build a list of priorities. Because if everything's priority, nothing's priority. If everything's
That's
important,
right.
nothing's important, right?
So
Um,
true. So
yeah.
true. I want to leave our listeners with, because we did a lot of research on some of the data around this. There was an article out of the Economic Times, and what we'll do is we'll link that article. But it was called "Is Multitasking Breaking Our Brain?" And so as we close here, Harry, I just want to give some people some solutions, or at least one solution in order how to overcome some of this. So one of the things is adopting a 20-minute rule and just focusing on one task for 20 minutes before shifting to the next. And to do that, you got to create a distraction-free environment as your phone's going off, or getting some kind of notification to check a text. You got to resist that urge to do that and really lock in for those 20 minutes. Because it's not going to help your brain, as soon as you go to that text, you're not going to be able to get into that deep level of work or focus that you need to be able to accomplish a task. And then again, in aggregate, it's going to become more it's disruptive. The more you keep switching from social media to text to email to picking up a phone call. So locking in on that 20 minutes. And then the other thing I was thinking about too is just as you're with your team, as you start to apply some of these things to let folks know. I mean, if you're working on something or you don't pick up right away, it's because you are focused in that deep work, for the 20 to 30 minutes or whatever it is, and start to create a culture that you don't have to respond in 30 seconds after you get, a request. And so that's another important piece too, but we'll link that article to the to the podcast.
DJ, to take that one step further as we close here. So the process you're talking about, as far as setting aside that 20-minute time, just this, not just an idea, there's science behind this. This is called the Pomodoro effect, effect. So if you're wondering, okay, listen, because either people are suffering from procrastination and doing nothing, right? Or doing too much, right? And when you carve out that 20 minutes, literally set a timer, right? 20 minutes. And it can be shorter, it can be 15, it can be 25, but let's call it 20 minutes. Set the timer, 20 minutes, you're going to lock in on said task, and then you take a 5-minute break. The 5-minute break's important, right? So don't just go from 20 minutes to the next 20 minutes to the next 20 minutes, because all these things are going to start bleeding in together, right? So take a 5-minute walk, take a 5-minute, call your wife, call your husband, whatever it might be, check in on whatever you got to check in on. 20 minutes on, 5 minutes off, right? On said task. That's called the Pomodoro effect. So if anyone wants to research that, that's what that's called. It's actually scientific fact.
I love that. And I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, when I was talking to my mindset coach, my AI mindset coach, Numi, that she recommended that before in the past. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, these messages sponsored by Numi, your mindset caddy for today's biggest challenges. So really Numi is our AI coach and Limitless Minds AI coach. It's part of our platform. I mentioned caddy. It's like a mindset caddy. A caddy helps you with your size selection, what club to pull out of the bag, how to read the putt on the green. A caddy carries your bag. So Numi's your performance partner. And so, DJ told me, oftentimes somebody might ask Numi something like, hey, I'm struggling to kind of get started on a project. Hey, I've got too much. I got a little overwhelmed, too much going on. How can I support that? One of the coaching things that I've seen Numi do as well is offer that Pomodoro effect method in various ways. So man,
that's funny. That's funny because I'm reading the article calling it the 20-minute rule, but you're absolutely right. When you said that, I was like, I think I've had that. I think it's recommendation before.
Not everything. Not everything needs the scientifically backed name, because then it kind of intimidates people that we're over sciencing things. But I think for some that need the research and the data and like the studies to be shown, the Pomodoro effect is what that is. For others that just want the simplicity of like, hey, what do I need to do? 20-minute rule. Right. So that's good stuff, man. Well, listen, good convo, multitasking, myth buster opportunity right here. But remember, guys, either way, what's not a myth is that you don't have to be sick to get better. See you next time.